out of line, but he's right. Who the hell is Bucky? You don't like a fair fight.
I think you're wrong. Which part? All of it.
Think you're the only superhero in the world?
Touché.
That's
Hey. Ooh.
where's Dad?
Well, not a ton lately, unfortunately. Traveling a lot for work and all that. So I did get a game in yesterday with foes. So that was pretty good. Pretty good time. Only got one game in yesterday, unfortunately, but it was fun. Exactly. Exactly.
What did you? Oh man, I've been playing some Slavic life. I tell you what, I've been living my Slav life again. Some of you might remember where I desperately tried to make Winterguard work for NashCon last year and failed utterly. It was just wonderful. So now that they've got a little extra love and with some new stuff, I've been trying Winterguard again. I've been having a lot of fun. I'll tell you what, we've got an affiliation battle coming right around the corner, so I'm really stoked to play them. Oh, having a two threat in Omega Red, I'm still kind of iffy on right now. Just mainly because there's so much poison immunity in the game right now. But it there's so much. But I have been giving him a try. So I've played him in one of my 4 games that I've tried recently. Uh, but Court, OG Widow, a two threat in affiliation, is just amazing. It gives you so much room to do neat things. So. Uh,
Getting some complaints from the chat. Good thing we have quality control.
there we go.
All right, so we can only hear Ben. Is that still true?
You only need to hear me. I'm the king of slaps and the king of rogue agents, apparently. First what an intro, too. I really like that intro. Can I get that intro more often?
Yeah. I mean, I can. It's going to be recorded now. You can put it wherever you want it.
That's true. I can just copy paste that wherever. Just copy paste that bad boy. But no. I mean, having a two threat in affiliation is just so good. It gives you so much flexibility in this game. So yeah, I think I don't know. If I'm going to be completely honest, I don't know how much that helps Winterguard in terms of like top tier affiliations. I don't think they go from. I put them tied for worst affiliation with Sentinels. I think they're somewhere in the middle now. If I'm going to be honest, I just don't know where that is. So I'm excited to kind of continue to parse that out.
Neat.
Whether or not.
I think Winterguard's got a huge leg up on Sentinels personally, but that's just me. I like. I ran a handful of games with. It was a Winterguard Wakanda roster. That worked out pretty well. I had a handful of fun games with that one.
Okay. I think I know how to fix something.
Uh-oh.
We're going to have to start over again.
We're going to have to start over again. Third time's a charm.
Why wouldn't we?
I mean, that's fine.
This is quality.
We got this. holy macros with us. What? I have no idea what you're talking about. Oh, I don't know. When do we start blaming Dad? Do we just start blaming? When do we yell at Dad? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Are you guys gonna watch me eat a really messy meal then? What's this? Oh. What is it called? ASMR? What is the?
Yeah, ASMR, man.
Yeah.
We're really gonna get monetized now.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, maybe we're back.
Never remember?
Are we back now?
Maybe.
I don't know. This is the problem. Is it worked earlier today, and that was our
It
problem.
worked just fine earlier today, and now we've got weird echoes, and it's just great.
My fault. We had tested it earlier today, and then we ruined it. Just utterly ruined.
Nobody has like their speakers on, right?
So,
For audio?
I do not.
Alyssa says that Sam, you're good, but Joe and I are not. I don't know how to fix that on my end.
Testing 1, 2.
Okay, so
Okay,
I'm probably
testing
just
1, 2.
loud. Oof, ad break. Sorry about that.
Yuck. Yucky.
I don't know. Hey, look, I fix technology with hammers, so that's my solution.
I have things turned down very low on my end.
We just hit it really hard.
Okay. I'm gonna need to figure out how to turn down the volume on the stream on my end, but you know what, guys? Let's talk about sportsmanship before we stop being good sports about this. I'm gonna need some notes. So
Good call.
I guess a fun place to start this is probably with Ben and I meeting at LVO last year, and it was one of the most fun heel on heel games I've ever had.
What a way to put it. Heel on heel, love it.
So I have a really terrible echo. Golly dang it.
Too bad technology making us look bad.
If I do this,
It's a really messy thing.
can you guys still hear me? And
I have no issues yet.
yeah, now you're echoey too.
I'm echoey?
Everyone is echoey. I have echo cancellation turned on for everyone, and we're all still echo all over the place. Okay.
Joey and I are here to look really pretty. Just look at our glorious beards.
Yeah, I already ate a burrito, so I'm good. Got that out of the way.
I've been running around all day. I haven't had a chance to do much. So just eating.
It says it's working now in the chat.
Well, that's good.
Working? We did it?
With Echo?
So far.
Are we working with or without Echo?
This is working, so I don't know. Echo is still there, so apparently time shift.
Man. It's all worked just like yesterday.
I know. It worked earlier today.
I swear I never change anything. And it's different every single time.
What if I lower my volume? Am I still echoing now?
It's probably Twitch Studio. It's a combination of the recording. Yeah. I switched up where it was pulling the source because it was easier. Okay. I think we can fix this. It's going to mess everything up on the stream.
We have that technology.
Yeah, we'll just start over again because that's how we do this.
Hey, that's all right. I still got this messy. Look at this. Look how messy this is. Look at it. But it's yummy. It's yummy. It's peanut butter, honey, some cinnamon. It's good to get messy in the beard.
How do you style it?
Brought to you. Yeah, I mean, I style mine with peanut butter. That's how I.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Honey's natural. Good to go.
Huh. Actually, just have a colony of bees just in the backyard. Do all my work for me.
Now it's going to be walking the other way.
If you don't laugh, we'll cry, so it's fine.
Yeah, well, we're in pure F it, we'll do it live mode right now.
Oh, back to the stuttery looking video.
Yep. Now we're all
Nice.
max headroom, but there's going to be no echo, and it'll all work out. So.
If I stutter like this, though, it'll really make it. If I just like bob and weave, that'll really mess it. That'll freak people out.
Just sit incredibly still.
Okay, so here we go. Round 3. We're gonna try this again.
Okay.
All right. That's all right. Let's just start here. So let's talk about sportsmanship, eh?
Hey, way to be good sports about listening to this nonsense.
Yeah. There we go.
I mean, you can still look at him. Like you can see all of us. We just don't look quite right because we look like weird, stuttery robots doing weird, stuttery robot things. It's super fun. Everything's great.
Everything's fine.
Don't worry about it. So, getting back to where we started, right? Are you guys familiar with the term? I'm assuming that everyone on the show is familiar with the terms heel and face as wrestling terms for good guys and bad guys. Well, bad guys and good guys, depending on how you look at it. So when I say that Ben and I had a fantastic heel game, I literally mean that at the start of this game, we were basically perfect strangers. And by the end of it, we were like the best of friends. And all we had done was give each other an endless amount of crap over the entire course of the game. Just jabs about this, jibes about that. His pyro wouldn't die. His Malekith was just slowly deleting my entire army. My Hulkbuster was drowning in status conditions, and there was nothing I could do about it. And then all of a sudden, the game was over, and Ben won. But it was very close, from what I recall anyway.
Yeah, it was very close.
If Pyro had died one turn earlier, it maybe goes the other way. And it was just like, well, this is the game. This is why we play it. This was, a meeting of the minds of two people with a similar approach to, how to enjoy a game with a total stranger, how to enjoy a game with another player of the game that you like, how to enjoy the hobby with someone that you've just met. And while I think that we both take more of the quote what I call a heel approach, where I just feel that being a heel is a little bit more honest than being a face. When you're a heel, right? You're there, you're playing this game, and you're trying to win. You're trying to beat people. You're trying to not win by any means necessary so much, but a face can't play you dirty ever. A heel can play clean. There's like nothing that's ever going to stop a heel from actually like having a fair fight with someone, other than the fact that they don't feel compelled to more often than not. And by fair fight, when talking about sportsmanship, I don't mean cheating on the table. I mean just having a good time and taking who wins and who loses isn't the most important takeaway from this game. It's the experience that we build with each other while we're at the table. And the heel approach is just a way to kind of put that out there and do something a little bit different. I think it's really easy to do that with your friends, especially if you've got a close group of people that you play with regularly. I think that almost every group winds up falling into a lot of those tendencies. You're just giving each other crap all the time. And then you go out and you play some total strangers. And I think that I tend to almost want to shift completely out of that mindset and try to just be like the best ambassador for the game, like ever, right? Where it's like I want my opponent across the table who I've never met to have the best time and try to find a way to meet them on their level and like just like bring our game up to the most immaculate place. And if that means I meet a guy like Ben where it's super easy, where we just, jive into it and start poking each other, just poking the bear repeatedly over the course of the game. So I think the first part of what I'd like us to touch on when it comes to sportsmanship is how do you, as a player trying to have a good time with friends and strangers, come in and approach those initial moments after you've like walked up to the table, whether it's at a big tournament, a little tournament, or just a game night. How do you approach those initial moments to try to make sure that both players who are here are going to have a good time?
After you, Joey.
All right, I'll start. Yeah, so initially, especially at locals, even if it's a local event, just anything smaller, game day, what have you, definitely that dialogue in the beginning is pretty crucial. You kind of ask them what would they expect out of it. A couple icebreaker questions, whatever,
Sure.
How long you've been playing, that type of deal. And then you kind of go from there. With bigger tournaments, it's still important, but you both kind of know why you're there. Is to obviously you want to win. You're at a tournament, but it's not necessarily one of those things where you want to win at all costs, as far as to the detriment of the time that they're having.
Yeah.
But yeah, having that initial opening dialogue in the beginning, I think, is probably one of the most important things.
Yeah, I would echo that. For me, one of the first things I do is you reach the hand out, shake hands, introduce yourself, try to compliment their mustache if they have a glorious mustache,
or their beard, as the case may be. Yep.
Right. Yeah. Whatever. Things they're doing well. No, for me, I come out and say, look, especially even at high level tournaments, say, hey, we're on the same team. We're trying to kind of accomplish the same goal. And so if we can kind of come to terms and acknowledge that we can help each other in terms of, for me, I'm a big rule of intent, communicating throughout the game of, hey, I'm trying to get within range one here. And does this look good? Does this look good to you? Do we agree on this? Sam, I don't know if you remember, but I tell folks, I have really shaky hands. And so I come out and say to every one of my opponents, hey, I have really shaky hands, and this is a game of precision. So if I'm probably going to knock something over at some point. But I will trust you you put it back to where you think it was. We'll work together, and I may ask, if I'm trying to hold the angle of a throw, I may ask, hey, can you move my model? Just can we work together on this? Just so that we can be that teamwork makes the dream work. Trying to find ways to laugh right out of the gate. If I remember, when I met Sam, one of the first things, as we were laughing, he looked across and goes, "Oh, so you're bringing Malekith?" You're like, "You're damn right I am," and he's coming right at your face, right? Just kind of, getting rid of that tension, just finding a way to laugh, because in the grand scheme of it, let's be honest, these are plastic toys that we're gathered around. And so finding a way to laugh and have fun, while even, and this was at LVO, this is, kind of that top of the tier,
Yeah.
competition, people are wanting to win. Um, so I think it's important to kind of de-escalate that and have those
Agreed.
conversations right out of the gate.
I mean, to be fair, I don't think that either one of us were like technically in any sort of money position at that point anyway. So it might have been that top tier.
Yeah, I think we both lost.
But it was
yeah,
not that top tier of top tiers.
I don't know what you're saying, Sam. We played in the finals in my heart.
Oh,
so
fair. It was.
it's the finals
Top table.
top table was the top table of my heart, Sam.
So if we're talking sportsmanship, how would you actually define sportsmanship? Like what is, like if someone were to say that they think that someone is a good sportsman, obviously not any of us, but if they were to say that about someone that you knew, what do you think, what's the quality they would be describing?
I don't know. I'd say probably win or lose, it's nothing changes if that's the easiest way to put it. As far as attitude and your demeanor, that sort of thing. Um, Being gracious on either losing and winning is kind of a big deal because being on the negative side on either one of those, it's going to ruin it for your opponent more than likely. Unless you have that rapport where you can do the little bit of trash talk and whatnot.
Oh yeah, the things that I've done, the things that I've done to people I know at tournaments are beyond the pale compared to the things that I've done with total strangers. Like pounding on the table, hollering stuff.
Yep.
You really just like, and when you play people regularly, sometimes you almost have to do those things to take that game to the next level because they're, dude, Phil, I've played you like 30 times, we've played so many different games together that how do we, bring something enjoyable now that there's actually something on the line. We're playing at, a tournament for, maybe it's to, get into a cut, or maybe there are no stakes because it's just the end of the day, but one of us goes home with a losing record. What if, one of a bazillion different scenarios can play out with it. But I agree. I think that, sportsmanship as a definition is kind of keeping the game to an even place, no matter, winning or losing. And for me, I kind of describe that as trying to take the validation out of it, right? Like my validation does not come from winning this game. It does not come from beating you at this game. It comes from the fact that I've met another amazing person and we're going to play a fun game together. Like that's the validation. That's the fun part. That's what we're doing here. And it's an interesting balance, right? Because there are definitely times when the dice start to swing. Now, Crisis Protocol is a great example of a game that has some very swingy dice and some really crazy stuff can happen. And you can watch the best laid plans of mice and men disintegrate in front of a series of amazing rolls. And you can also watch a really terrible plan just completely annihilate whatever's happening, that you thought you had, set up. You're like, oh, all I got to do here is take 2 4-die shots to the face. I can definitely do that. No, actually you can't. And now the entire course of the game has changed. And, being able to keep your cool.
Red Skull's grunts won't kill me, right? Yeah, I'm like
Yes, they
British.
will.
I'm like British or Red Skull's, grunts don't do anything. They just kind of sit there and do nothing, right? Right?
They will. I feel like the grunts almost always do more damage than their masters in like every situation.
All the time.
Like here's Red Skull rolling 6 dice counting blanks, right? Does just 1 damage, and the grunts just did like 6 dice on 4, 6 damage on 4,
Yep.
followed by 5 damage on 4, and you're like, well,
Yeah.
That adds up.
Yep, that checks out. The math checks out.
yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, I just to echo what you guys are saying, I think it's the same thing where, I think a good sportsman is someone who is able to kind of gauge the ebb and flow of the game. Sam, you said it really well that there are just going to be dice spikes, and there are going to be whiffs, right? I don't know how many times I'm like, yeah, on average, I should be able to daze or KO you or do the things that I need to do. And you just swing and you miss. And I think a good sportsman is in you. It understands the emotion of the game.
Yeah.
I think it would be inaccurate for us to say that people who play competitive games aren't emotional, right? They're going to be robotic. No, there's feelings. I've seen people table flip. I've seen people pound on things.
Right.
I've seen it all. I may have been one of those people who have been on stream before. I'm like, mother, in a perfectly calm, reaction.
Right.
And having your opponent be able to go on that journey with you, I think, is an indication of someone who is a good sportsman.
You're riding those waves together, right?
Yep.
Like I'm riding your spikes, you're riding mine. We are riding those waves together. It's like that scene in the car ride with Nicolas Cage and
You had me at Nicolas Cage.
and the zaddy of zaddies, Pedro Pascal, right? With unbearable weight, and they're like looking at each other and they're smiling, right? Because they're like tripping balls. But like this is like like when you're playing this game with your opponent, you're having a shared experience with the person across the table from you, and so the more that you can just embrace those roles together, right? So like if you can find a way to be happy for their spikes, which is really hard sometimes.
Yep. That's one of those things, though, is like I just had this conversation. We were talking about earlier. I only ended up playing one game yesterday. We were talking about it because there was some rowdy stuff that happened in that game that should not have.
Yeah.
And I was trying to explain to him because in our area there was some saltiness because this was a new game to some people.
Mm-hmm.
They played heavily and quit because of dice spikes, etc. Not taking into account that they focus on that one negative dice spike.
Yeah.
Now they don't pay attention to the bad ones that happen to me and so on and so forth. And it's like you can't just look at one and think that determines the entire game. Like it goes on both sides. You have to take stock of the entire match. But yeah, that's one of those things that I had to rope myself in on it too, because I was like, man, these dice, what in the world is going on right now? There's been some instances, but the more you play, like that's just the nature of the beast, man. You gotta be fluid. You gotta be able to flex into crazy situations.
It might not happen in a game, but it definitely happens like over the course of multiple games. The dice will even out like sooner or later.
Yep.
And the thing that the two dice tricks that I've done is one of them is like, if you think you're rolling really terrible, start paying attention. Like actually like write down, the rolls that you had and the rolls that your opponent had. And one thing that showed me, right, it's kind of like number two, is you'll have really good rolls. They just don't mean anything. Like you'll have that like 6, 7, 8 dice spike, but you're like, oh, but that was my defense roll. Like I still only blocked 2. But if this was offense, I would have smoked this guy.
I just did 12 damage and this guy had 2 health. What's up? Eat it.
Yep.
Eat it, nerd. So I'll tell you, one of the worst things that you could do is doing the math, because you'll break your heart. I got
that
dice
is the
spiked.
Worst.
I got dice spiked into oblivion by a domino, who is the worst, by the way.
She is the best at that.
And I looked up, I did the math, right? Did the math, and it was like a 0.37% chance of this thing happening. And I was like, now I'm more mad. now this is driving me insane. So yeah, I think just riding the wave, recognizing, and Sam, I think you said that so perfectly, of recognizing that sometimes you're going to have these big spikes, but maybe they're happening when it doesn't matter. Write it down. Keep track of it and recognize this isn't some, cosmic scheme to make you bad at this game, right? I think sometimes, people go, poor me. Oh, I would have won if, X, Y, Z. This isn't.
That's my favorite. Yeah.
It's not Thanos, playing, that mean trick that on that kid's birthday or whatever, just showing up and ruining his birthday. Thanos is not trolling you. It's a game of dice, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen to everybody, you just got to roll with it and don't do the math because it's going to break your heart.
Pun intended.
Yeah, like Sweet Tea and Coffee says in the chat, it's always 50-50. It is every single roll.
It's going to work or it's not.
Are you going to get this damage? I don't know. I might. Probably not.
Can I do 7 damage on 4 dice?
Do I need it?
It's 50-50.
Do I need it? Would it be bad for me if I got it? Because if it was bad for me to get it, I would probably get it. So, I mean, part of this is like going back to meeting people on their level. So, what do you do when, number one, let's start with ourselves, right? How do you keep yourself from tilting when something starts to go wrong for you on the table? Dice or otherwise, right? Like either you got your paper thin strategy got seen through, right? And so you've been seen now, and they're just all over you.
Strategy. What's that?
Man, I feel attacked. I feel attacked. Paper thin strategy, just shots fired.
So how do you keep your cool when things start to go wrong? What can you do to control yourself and make sure that you're still like that beacon of amazing for your opponent to connect to, so you guys can both stay on that wave together?
So for me, one of the best things that I learned, and I saw a better improvement of myself after I started taking this into practice, was just being honest and transparent with my opponent, and walking away for a minute or two. So it was actually at where Sam and I we met. I had won 3 games, and if I win this next game, I'm in, the top 4 or whatever. I'm like, man, I'm so freaking good at this game, right? Like, I'm just so awesome. I'm cleaning house. Juggernaut has got 4 hammers. I don't lose. I don't lose this game if I play Indomitable, and it's in my hand. I'm looking right at it. And do I play it? Nope. And I end up losing the game. And I literally, as this is happening, I go, oh my goodness, I just lost. Not to take anything away from my opponent, but I just lost this game. And I remember being so angry. So angry at myself, not at my opponent, but I'm like, I'm the biggest idiot in the world. And so I remember sharing with my opponent, I'm like, and then we were doing chess clocks, so being able, even if you're in that setting, take your time, right? Boop. Hey, this time's on me. I need to step back for a second and just collect myself, because I think we tell ourselves, we lie to ourselves, hey, I'm okay, and that's when that negative
Everything's fine.
Right? Yeah, I mean, right. We just lie to ourselves.
The house is on fire.
Right? Yeah, everything's fine. And then there's that negative attitude. Yep. Okay. Yeah. Whatever. Yep. And it takes down, the enjoyment for your opponent. We don't celebrate their successes, and we kind of just moan on our own defeatism. And so being able to just name to your opponent, hey, I just need a minute or two. I'm kind of tilting. I'm getting a little upset, and I'm gonna take a second. And I have not found a single opponent who has not allowed that, or even in a competitive tournament, just saying, look, we'll do it on my time. This chess clock, we'll do it on my time.
I mean, at that point, they're probably like, sweet. He's cracking.
Sweet.
I've got this guy.
I'm in his head. Yeah.
Oh, I got him. We done broke him.
Who's the heel now?
The name's Rightmad for a reason. I'm about to lose my freaking mind. But yeah, walking away. Yeah, just being honest and walk away for a little bit. Yep.
Yeah, communication is huge. Just being able to communicate to your opponent, like, without anything personal. Like, it's not you. Hey, it's not you. I just need a second. This is not going the way that it went when I did the thought experiment that was my thinking about this game. Yeah, I did not see it going this way. I need a second. I need to walk away. Go to the bathroom. Splash some water on your face. Maybe don't scream out openly or anything like that. But try to find a way to get yourself out of that moment and come right back.
If I remember, Sam, in our game, I threatened you a lot. So do that, too. Just threaten physical violence on your opponent.
Yeah.
I remember, if you spike here, it was like your Doctor Strange was just kind of going nuts. And I was like, don't do it.
He listened. I didn't listen, but he listened.
Right. Just kidding. Please don't do that. Yeah, please don't do that.
Physical threats are probably not considered good sportsmanship in most places, but meet your opponent on their level, right? That was the first thing we said with this. Is have that conversation, read the room, figure out where you're at, and then play that game together. And in our game, threats were fine. Like
it was on the table. Yeah.
I let you win.
yeah.
I didn't want to be. I
Sometimes
didn't want the
you're
real
just
world
like,
beat
man,
that afterwards.
I'm a big guy, so I'm just like, oh man. No, yeah, those are the other. So Alyssa in the chat, the sweet tea and coffee. I one of the most difficult things was watching her play in the qualifier, where she was making decisions that I was like, I'm just watching. I'm just an observer. And yeah, she attacked Rhino, a full health Rhino, with her crystal with 4-die attacks. I'm like, what are you doing? Ah!
Why is this happening? This can't be the right
Why are you
decision.
doing this? This is such a bad idea. And
Did it work?
well, I walked away, and then when I came back, Rhino was dead. I was
So
like,
it worked.
Nice.
oh. So it shows you what I know. So, but yeah, learn. But taking that, walking away, catching your breath,
Yeah. Mackinac in the chat says that his issue is when his agency gets taken away. That's kind of a tilting moment. That is definitely. I mean, if we've got one thing that I harp on, it's fun to play does not mean fun to play against, and a lot of those fun to play against things are absolutely agency destroyers. They're just going to completely remove that agency out of the game, whether it's double activating to retain prio or it's something else like. Even like a Loki aura, where it's just okay. Like now everybody's rooted. It costs you extra to pay for these superpowers that you built your whole squad around. It's going to be like you're just going to do this, and that, and now you don't get to do those things because you don't have the power to do it. You don't have the resources, but you should, but you don't. And so losing agency is another one where now we're not talking about dice. We're not talking about something random. We're talking about maybe you should have seen it. Maybe you made the right decision and your opponent didn't see it. Like, oh man, I didn't even think about you bringing Loki. Now I have to play through this the whole game. And then you've got those dovetails where it becomes the RNG and the piece that you brought to mess with your opponent start to coalesce together. And now all they roll into Loki is crits. And they're just like, well, like what does this matter? If this was anyone else, this would be perfect, but now it's terrible because I'm stuck with this. When you're in that situation, how do you pull yourself out of those? Because that's a little bit that's not even something you can walk away from. That's something where you've got to like either realize something on the table or you've got to just completely pivot in terms of strategy. Like, does that help you? Do you go into the tank? Do you make the mean faces and fold your arms? Back up from the table and start hulking, because I tend to do things like that where it's like I'm not trying to like be imposing, I'm not trying to stop having fun with you, but like I've gone into the tank now for one reason or another, and now I'm starting to think about the game and what I actually need to do. So do you have any tips for dealing with those moments?
Mine is similar, but I take the air quotes mental walk away. I do kind of like you're saying right now. It's like you kind of step back for a second, look at everything like really hard. I get kind of quiet sometimes. It's weird, but I'll think real hard. But the point always sticks with me where when XYZ happens in a negative way, it's more than likely going to flip back around, or it could. Put yourself in the right position and those tables can turn.
Mm-hmm.
And I always remind myself that is a very good, possibly likely possibility, It's, I try not to like express like yelling, arm waving, that kind of thing. Yeah, mine is more so on the quieter side.
I don't know if you remember, Sam. Do you remember the Carnage All You Got days? Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Remember how fun that was?
No.
Yeah, where Carnage is attacking like 8 times.
Yeah. Hits your whole army.
His punishment is that he's dazed at the end, but haha, joke's on you. Your whole team's dazed. So, yeah, I totally get those agency moments where you're sitting there and watching Carnage kill your whole team. And then, that was also a day where there was field dressing, right? So Carnage kills your whole team, you're dazed, and then they just field dressing, patch him up, and go, "Are you having fun? I'm having fun," right?
I was.
And it's just, Uh, this is revealing of why Sam's the heel. But no, it is really hard, and it's difficult to say. I think being able to again, I think the key to sportsmanship is, as we've said, is just communication. Being able to talk and try to resist some of the urges to go to those darker places where it's just like, this is really effing stupid, or I mean, I've had, and I think if we're honest, we could probably think of maybe one or two people that we've played in our years of playing this game that we could go, oh, this was definitely a bad sportsmanship. You just feel good, in the moment. Maybe there's times where we think, oh, I was a bad sportsman, and how do you then kind of get out of your own headspace and recognizing that. And the best way is you know yourself. No one's going to know you better than yourself, and you've got to recognize that it's a game of plastic toys. In the end,
that's the number one.
Number one.
That is probably over like communication. It's just like you're playing with plastic toys.
You're playing with plastic toys, man, and they're cool plastic toys. Don't get me wrong.
They are.
And my wife worked a long time to paint them because I don't paint them.
Can't smash those.
And I just smash those. Yeah, smash those. But being able to recognize that and have a perspective moment. Yeah, am I going to try my ass off when I go to LVO? Yeah, you better believe it. But when I walk away and I end up losing, it's, well. Did I have fun? What can I learn? That's, for me, in those moments, I'll never forget the old Thanos fishing hook, and I was playing.
It's alive and well.
Yep. Oh yeah, now it's back. Yeah. Yay. But being able to recognize the first time I played in the online seasons, I was playing, I was like, oh yeah, I'm just going to play with Avengers, play with Steve and have a good old time, and I double walk Steve to a middle extract because Steve's tanky and he'll be fine. And next thing I know,
Steve's
last
words.
And he's in, the Thanos player's deployment and I'm getting smashed into the ground. For me, that wasn't fun. And that was, I was not happy about it. So one of the ways that I, tend to think about it is, what can I learn from this experience, both about my emotions and to, if I have that competitive mindset, all right, well, now I know this is an option. This is in the world, so how do I deal with this?
I think that, that's huge. The competitive mindset versus the casual environment, we'll say. I think that's one of the most interesting aspects of tabletop gaming to navigate. I've said for a while, I think that casual communities easily devolve into far more toxic environments than a truly competitive environment does. A truly competitive environment, you expect, every dirty trick. You expect the caltrops and the rug to be, scooped out from underneath your feet. You expect the banana peels getting, shot out at you, and you're getting out of control and you're crashing off the track. You expect all of that. In the casual world, it's far too easy to bring something that's, a counter, even a hard counter to something that your opponent's playing or trying to do. They brought their meme multi-tactic combo list, and you were like, well, that's neat. I've got a spider tracker and claw, so you're literally never going to be able to land next to me and do this thing that you're trying to do. It's just not going to happen. And now, that game for one player is just as uncomfortable as playing against the most competitive thing, that the guy across the room that he was like, no, I don't want to play against your competitive roster tonight. I'm just having fun with my meme list. And you're like, bam, we just hard countered each other. But so one of the things that we've been talking about is trying to bring basically like more models and more lists to the game night experience. And so with AMG kind of announcing this like triple roster format, I think that one of the best things that competitive players can do until we know exactly what that format is push ourselves in that direction already. And so, bring 30 lists with bring 30 pieces, 30 characters, 30 tactics, and 18 crises, and have no overlap across all of it. And then you're basically going to have a list that you made 0 concessions on. You're going to have another one that you're like, well, I'm kind of testing some stuff. And then you're going to have a third one that's going to be like, this is kind of like hot garbage, but I've got lots of things that I need to understand better going on over here. Because if it does work out that we can't have any crisis overlap, that means that you're going to have, like, if you never play on pay to flips, like, you've got to figure out how to play on pay to flips for that kind of a roster setup. And if you only play on pay to flips, you're going to have to figure out how to stand around and die. Like how do we balance these things? How do you do that? So I think that, coming out of the competitive tournament, MCP scene or, events, when you're at more of like just a local game night or just playing around with your friends, what kind of steps do you think a good sportsman should be taking to make sure that we're meeting people on the level that they want to be at, right? So when you've got the guy with the dumps all 4 or 5 of his team tactics into a giant combo, like how do you respond to that kind of a haymaker? How do you show that guy a good game versus how do you, scratch your competitive itch? I think that, Ben, you touched on, learning something. If you can walk away with a learning experience from the game, that's usually enough for me. Like, that's something that, like, so long as I walked away with something, I learned how to play Black Bolt better tonight. I learned, that I can bring this combination and it's not as bad as I thought it was. Like, what do you do to put, yourself in other people's shoes now, right? So how do you show someone else a good time? How do you give good game?
I think for me, being able to celebrate people's victories.
Amen.
Right? Hey, that was freaking cool. Like, I didn't see that coming, or I didn't know that combo existed. I think sometimes, how do I say this nicely? We are just such a selfish community. It's our world, right? And you just happen to reside in it. And so, what if we thought of it differently and recognized that other people are important, and there's something special about being able to celebrate others, and go, oh, Sam, that was really cool. I've never seen someone run convocation that way, or that was just a combo I've never thought of, and thank you. And that's something I'm gonna take back home.
Yeah.
I recently watched an Inhumans player, and was like, wow, I was taking notes so that I can talk to my wife about it, because she plays Inhumans. I hate Inhumans, but I think it's something that's really interesting, and lifting that up to that individual, being able to say, thank you for showing me that, even though maybe I didn't fully love it, or it didn't really speak to me, but being able, hey, that was something that you liked. I think one of the dangers of, like, kind of that competitive atmosphere is that sometimes we have to resist the temptation of becoming echo chambers and going, oh, you just need to always bring Hulk, always bring CGR. I brought fastball special before the buffs and all of that, because Colossus is one of my favorite characters. And yes, I did the one trick pony. I got my fastball special off because it was my favorite character, and that's okay. Being able to lift that up, both in the casual and the competitive sphere, right? Maybe those first rounds you're getting someone.
I did the thing.
You did the thing. So let's celebrate that. Hey, that was really awesome. That was really cool. And not in a demeaning way, right? I think people can tell the difference of when you're just kind of like, oh, hey, that was kind of cool. You rolled a lot of dice.
Yeah, real cool.
Real.
Yeah, maybe don't say it like that. Right?
Yeah. But yeah, just being able to celebrate, people, and
Yeah, the takeaway is a big point for me. Me personally, like, if I could 100% choose, like, whether it's casual or competitive, I would much prefer competitive games. Granted, now I know that everybody's not like that. So for me, obviously you have our dialogue in the beginning of the game. If it's casual, then I switch my mindset to, I'm going to try to pull off something goofy too, or try to learn something from it. Like, any kind of certain combo or play tactics cards that you don't normally play against XYZ matchup, so I can take away something as well.
Mm-hmm.
is that's like the main thing that I try to do in those. And for casual games, personally, I there's a lot more talking. Like if you have four tactics card gimmick combos or whatever, I would walk them through it and even try to add to it. Or like, oh, dude, you could swap this out for this, and that would have done something else. You know what I mean?
You can do even
Just to
more.
kind of add to it. But
What if you did this but better, right?
yeah. What if that didn't suck? You know?
Right, exactly.
But yeah, I definitely like to try to take away something from every single game if possible.
I mean, so the celebrating people thing I think is huge because with like
Yeah.
celebrating people, like that's what we're really here for, right? We're here to
Yep.
enjoy this experience more than we're here for anything else. And like when it comes to game night, like especially like number one, like we touched on this when we did the giving good demos and community building. It's like you don't have to win every game at game night. Like I don't care if you're the best
Exactly.
player in the world. Like find a way to lose some game night games. Like you can do it.
Yeah.
Find it in your heart of hearts. Bring the goofiest, jankiest, whatever. Sell out.
Yep.
Go over. Go overboard. Do what you got to do. If you wind up in a bind, then give the old heel turn. You're like, oh no, not in the face, not in the face.
Oh no!
But I think part of the reason for this isn't so you can learn how to lose with humility, or like, but like so that you can people can see when people playing your game are having a good time, right? And that's another thing that like draws people into your game is like you can tell those guys are having a good time. When one of those players is having a good time and the other one looks miserable, like that does not make me go like, I want to go check that game out. What is this that spreads such misery?
Yeah. Is this a GW game? Wait, sorry. I got real quick. Sorry, I blacked out. No, and Sam and I talked a little bit about this off air. I recently kind of had a really painful experience, or kind of an eye-opening experience for myself. I was really, really upset, and some of you, watching the stream or hear the podcast, might have seen me, complain about the banning of Follow Me. Now I know what some people, but I was a not happy camper.
I love it.
I was not a happy camper, and so
It's hard when you're part of the problem. It's really, really hard. Like it's
I
just
was not a
hard.
look, hey, I was a whole.
I was the problem.
Follow Me. So I went to NashCon to prove a point, and I made a list called "Follow Me Wasn't the Problem," and it was the most toxic, unfun thing, and I did that intentionally. And it was one of those moments where, at first I was like, well, we're going to a competitive event, so people should kind of, Sam, as you named, people should expect this. But what was eye-opening to me was, I made 3 of my opponents not finish the tournament.
Yeah.
And that was really eye-opening to me.
Why did we have you on for sportsmanship?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think
Wait,
this is
I'm an
backwards,
asshole.
isn't it?
I'm like an asshole, right? Like, am I the bad guy here?
I mean, you were.
Yes, yeah.
The real question is, would you still be the bad guy if Follow Me was still around?
I don't think so. But anyways,
There you go.
but but even at the same tournament though, the one game that I lost was against was Aaron from Infamous. I can't remember his last name. I think it's Franklin, Aaron Franklin. And that was one of the most fun games, even though he was just countering me left and right. We hugged several times in the game, right? It was just like, I need a hug, because you're kicking my ass and I just need a hug, and sometimes you just got to hug it out. No, it's one of those things of recognizing, why I bring this up too is being kind of that socially aware of that sometimes you can be part of the problem. What are some of the things that I'm doing in list construction, in table in table mannerisms, things like that. If you're just like no talk, I do this, roll dice without communicating, right? Those are unfun experiences that as we were talking about, people are not going to want to play this game. Whether or not you like it, you are an ambassador to this game.
Yeah.
You don't have an option in that. You just are. And so if you're one of those people and you're not aware of kind of some of the consequences that our actions take, it can have a negative experience for the whole community. And I think many of us, I mean, if you're listening or watching to this, you want MCP to grow. So being able to look back at that and go, wow, that wasn't great of me. So then how do I listen to this podcast, listen, to this stream and go, how do I be better? And then how do I, at least for me, how do I then personify that within my own local community, right? Of being able to be that beacon. And I think, one of the great things that you can do, Sam, thank you for lifting up this. We've got this new potential format from AMG. What if you just bring lots of models to your local game night and let people, hey, have you played with this model before? You want to try it out? Do you want, being able to walk people through some of those things. When I was leading community out in Rochester, one of the things, we had a hard Malekith ban except by request. Because,
right.
if we want people coming off the street and you're going to go, I'm jamming Malekith, like, not into somebody who's not ready for that, right?
What the hell you are? You're not doing that. Not on my watch.
Hell yeah. I mean, yeah. You get people who know.
Nobody comes in here and messes with my Hulkamaniacs.
Right. Yeah, look, you ever been slapped by a fat holy man before? I'll tell you what.
It's not too late.
It's not too late. Reach across the aisle. Blam. But no, it's one of those things where I think that's really special for our communities. Being able to guard our communities and also having the honest conversation. Of what does it mean to be an ambassador, and more importantly, a good ambassador, because you can be a sucky one. And I think that's what this whole conversation is how to, being a good sportsman is being a good ambassador for this game and wanting this game to grow.
I agree with that 100%.
Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
Right after this last balance pass, when I got to play with restricted cards, the first thing I did was throw a Black Order roster together. And then the second thing I did was throw together a completely thematic Black Order roster. It's basically the same thing. Like, basically no material differences in what I'm actually going to put on the table in, like, most games. But I left the thematic one without restricted cards because I wanted to test so I can get knowledge from this game, right? I wanted to try out some of the jankier tactics cards that I don't usually use. Let's see what happens with these. And I would tell people as I would line up to them and be like, hey, look, this has Thanos in it. But if, like, you don't want to play against Thanos, if that's a deal breaker for you, I'm going to set him off to the side. I'm not going to bring him to this game. Don't even make him a second thought. Imagine that this is a Corvus only list and that there's a character in my roster that you're completely not afraid of. And so, like, just imagine that it's just 9. Just worry about this. We're going to play, whatever. And the other thing that I like to do with people a lot is, what I love about this, like, multi-roster format is that you can literally be like, hey, do you want to play against X-Men, Inhumans, Black Order? Like, do any of those sound okay to you? Do any of those sound like a hard pass or something that you're more interested in? Do you want to play with any of those? Like you said. Like, yeah. And I think that just having those resources there, and it's not something that, like, everybody can do. It's not something that I think everybody should feel compelled to do. But if you are someone who has a more competitive approach to the game, like, you have a leg up on almost anyone who doesn't, right? Because you think about the game more. You think about, like, how to play the game more. And you've probably put about 10 times more thought into the rosters that you're actually putting on the table. Like, let alone everything else involved. At that point, you're literally 3 steps ahead of someone who's just coming out to hang out and have a good time. And if the point is for us to hang out and have a good time, well, crap, we've got to close this skill gap in some way. We've got to close, this mindset gap in some way. And I mean, I think that that's really, like, one of the biggest benefits of the multi-list format is it just puts those extra options into play for you. And I think that, like, we've touched on, back and forth throughout this, like, this is important for community building. Having people who are good sports as a part of the community. We're all ambassadors for this game. We're trying to make sure that the people we have aren't compelled to quit, and the people that are coming in and they don't know what to do are compelled to stick around and stay and, hopefully play some more games with us. So I want to talk a little bit about how a good sportsman deals with a bad apple. So if you've got some toxicity in your group, if you've got a toxic player, if you are the toxic player, how do you deal with that? What's the, without, pushing someone completely out of the community? Because that's like, we never want to lose a player, especially, if your play group's already like maybe not like, 30 strong or something. You're like, oh, I don't really want to lose this player, but if we don't lose this player, if we don't lose this player, we might lose 3 others. Or if I lose this game to this player, I'm never going to hear the end of it. Oh, yeah. I don't know. So what do you do when you've got a bad apple? How do you deal with a bad apple? Either across the table, in your group, or, however that's going on. Because I have no idea.
I better go first. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough one. No. I don't know. I think driving the point home, like we were talking about earlier, that especially on casual game night, it's like, why do you have to win at all costs against this casual player or in this casual setting? There's zero stakes whatsoever. You just don't have to go that hard. Kind of how we just said also is you got to realize in doing that you're going to chase people away. Winning all the time, trying to go, 110% all the time, it's only going to get you so far. If you want the group, the longevity of the group to continue, pull some punches, And if you have multiple experienced people, kind of pull them off to the side and have the same conversation. Like, look, man, we can't be, like you said, dropping Malekith against this guy. This is his second game, and he's got like a core box. Like that's kind of silly. Like, what does that prove? Exactly.
So good at this game. Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Let me bow at your feet.
I used to think I was good. Then I realized I just find busted stuff.
Well, no, and then too, it's like you got the big fish in a small pond. It's like, okay, go do that somewhere else where it's warranted. Like you're supposed to build a community locally. You want that to grow, or I do. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Sam. Sorry, I don't want.
No. Go for it.
So I feel really strongly about this. I have seen, and let me be specific with this game. Coming from, building a community out in Rochester. I was very upfront with him. I was like, I want to guard you, because this is something I care about. I want you to have fun, and this is, a safe place for you to be and build community. And that was something that was really, really important to me. And so I had, built relationships with, the store owners and, talking about, hey, what is some leeway, of trying to make sure that people have the right attitude, and how do we deal with bad apples, and I'll tell you, I watched a fairly large community grow in another community here in New York and then disappear entirely because they did nothing with their bad apple. They did absolutely nothing, and this person single-handedly ruined that community. And as I was watching it happen, I said, no, I would rather lose the one, to save the many. And so I think, and how do I say this well? If you are a community leader, if you're one of those people, or if you're in contact with one of those community leaders and you know about it, talk to them. Conflict resolution is not bad. There's going to be conflict. Where there are two people gathered in a room, you're eventually going to argue about something. And so finding ways to find resolution, being able to talk about it, and sometimes the best, most healthy solution is separation. We love you. We recognize that this is maybe your mindset. If you keep this mindset, if you're going to keep doing this, you cannot play here anymore. Sorry. This is just the rules that we're going to live by in this community. And if that's not for you, sorry. And I know that sounds harsh. But for me, I think that is something that is desperately important. I'm sure that many of those, I know us personally, just some of our conversations have experienced toxic, bad gaming communities. And we're like, I'm done. I'm out. If this is how the community is going to be, I'm good. I love historical games, and I find the historical wargaming community. I'm going to just alienate myself. Really is one of the most difficult communities.
Nerd.
Right? First of all, nerd. And second, I don't paint models. Painting is one of the most stressful things for me. So I got into bolt action and wanted to play. There was a bolt action night, and they came out and said, "Look, if your stuff's not painted, you can't play with us."
You're like, so
Okay.
am I the baddie? Like,
Right. So recognize, like, all right, cool. I think that's dumb. But
I hate you guys.
and I hate you
Your
guys.
opinion's dumb, but all right.
I think your opinion's dumb, but cool. All right, fine. That's and if that's I'm allowed to disagree. People are allowed to disagree with me.
Yeah.
Of saying to have a behavior monitor. Look, I think this building a community and having a good community is more important than stroking somebody's ego. Congrats, you're really good at a game with plastic toys. Man, you really whooped my butt. But that's not going to impress. That's not going to impress. I didn't win over my wife because I'm a really good MCP player, right?
That wasn't it. That wasn't the last.
Been doing it wrong all
Yeah.
along.
Oh,
I know, right?
All
Isn't that
all
crazy?
well.
Isn't that crazy? Hashtag number one Brotherhood player. Bam!
Mission accomplished.
But bam! Did it. We lived the dream, guys.
Top that.
But seriously, I think it's really important, and forgive me if it sounds harsh, but I think it is vitally important. So being able to find that solution, and look, I think solutions and conflict resolution are important. I think there's more often than not there's a way to communicate with a bad apple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You talk to everyone
we had a
else,
couple
and then
bad-
you all just shun them, right? Is that the correct
Right, I mean,
approach?
that's what.
Well,
If white
realistically,
truth
that'll
taught me
play out
anything-
though.
Right, if
That'll
white truth
it kind of
taught
work
me
itself
anything-
out. If you got the one bad apple, he'll people just won't play him. You kind of let your money talk, so to speak.
I mean, in all seriousness, right? I mean,
Yeah.
What ends up happening, and that's what kills communities, right? Is
Yeah.
people were just like, all right,
Yeah,
cool,
it
I'm
fractures.
done.
Because sometimes that bad apple's got a good friend, who's like another pillar. I want to go back to something that you mentioned about, like if you're like a banner carrier in the community. I don't remember exactly the term you use, but the term I use is banner carrier, which is like literally like you're the guy running around, be like, play MCP with us, play MCP with us, play MCP with us. If you're that guy,
I really want a banner that says that now. Sorry,
it's probably best
make it happen, Sam.
for you to be the banner carrier. To be the banner carrier, be the TO, be the guy driving the community. Don't necessarily be the guy trying to go and get an LVO invitation. Don't necessarily be the guy who brings the most competitive roster every week, because those are the reps that you need to keep training. And I am speaking from experience. This is me pulling the board out of my eye to talk about the splinter, that every community has. But basically, like, this is something that my group did last summer. And what we wound up doing is that we fractured our community. So we had like the 5-6 of us that were the sweaty tryhards, and then we had the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 14 players who didn't want to play with us because they wanted to play the game that they wanted to play, and we didn't see it early enough that we had to meet them on the level. And something that came up in our Discord this week was a player out west talking about how like he doesn't necessarily want to get good. He doesn't necessarily want to up his game. He wants to play the game at the level that he plays it at. He wants to play with the pieces and the way that he likes to play it. And he doesn't want to take it to the next level. Like, his enjoyment of playing with War Dollies is, let's play the game that I like to play the way I like to play it. I'm not here to get better. Like, so that's a completely, that one is a different mindset. Again, like, that's not the player that's just like, I don't know, I put some Asgard stuff together. Look, it's Asgard. Yay. Throwing hammers, throwing cars. Also, I brought Hulk because, friends from work. Ha 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 ha. Like, that's one mindset. The next mindset is just like, hey, no, I just wanted to play some criminals, have a good time. Maybe, have a drink. Maybe just have some camaraderie, roll some dice, have some fun, go home. And, it takes all types. So one of the things we talked on the demos episode was we talked about how just, more bites at the apple. The bigger you grow your community, the more options you're going to have. But you've got to be able to read the room. You got to be able to have that you know, that overarching vision that says
Situational awareness.
situational awareness. That's the correct term.
There you go. My work is done.
We cracked that. There we go. Yeah, thanks, Joe.
So, one of the things that I think we should probably touch on a little bit then is how do you deal with a skill gap? So when you've got a skill gap game, all right, so we talked a little bit about this in a slightly different context, but like when it's literally a skill gap game, how do you make that fun for both players? Because now we're not talking about somebody that like doesn't know what they're doing and they're, you know, too new. We're talking about somebody who just wants to play the game the way they want to play it, and they're good enough that they're going to notice if you start to do like dumb stuff. They're like, oh, hey, like, what?
Oh, he's just outside of range one. How'd that happen?
Again. Ah.
No points for
You
me.
know,
Oh no.
you can't throw the game. I mean, I'm not, and all of what I'm talking about, like, you shouldn't be throwing these games. I'm not talking about making like bad decisions, you know, just to throw the game away. But you know, if it's like, should my Hulk with 3 hammers run away from the fight, or should he charge into it? Well, I know which one the competitive player makes on Saturday. I know which decision he makes. But, you know, it's game night. Why don't we roll 18 dice at this thing? And again, those are the kinds of choices that can go horribly wrong, and your opponent can take the game, or you can accidentally just daze their whole team with this, you know, massive.
That plan backfired.
You're like, shucks.
I mean, hey, a 10-die builder from a Hulk sounds kind of cool with me.
So
is
this is
slaps for a reason there, baby.
I think really this is less about trying to deal with that problem in the moment and more about like, what's your wrap up, right? So if you're trying to be a good sportsman, you're trying to build your community, like this isn't the kind of game that you're going to end and you're going to try to teach somebody how to play better. This isn't the kind of game where you're going to end your side of the game and you're going to be like, well, what do you think I did wrong? You know, because like that's like,
Right.
well, I don't know, man. Did you win? Like you won.
Yeah.
Like, what could you have possibly done wrong? Everything. And so a lot of those points that, you know, are kind of pushed in the more competitive community of any game, but in MCP definitely, you know, like where I'm trying to improve my game every game that I play. I'm trying to learn something. I'm trying to get better at what I do. Well, what do you do when there's not a whole lot there? I mean, personally for me, like it's like, well, let's just shift the conversation to like, well, you know, grab a beer or something. Like, hey, like, what are we doing after this? You know, like, what? Or just try to find some other ground to stand on with him that isn't the game. So now we're connecting as people still, even though we might not be on the same, like, I don't know. We're not seeing eye to eye so far as the MCP game that we just played went. I did everything that I could to have a good time and make sure that you had a good time. But in the end, Hulk rolled like 17 hits and it was weird. And now we're here.
This is awkward.
Just tell them to get good and walk away.
Mic drop. Yeah, we're done, right? Like, thanks for the game.
Nerds.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
done.
No, it's really interesting. I think sometimes, you know, again, being able to kind of read the room, you know, I think, you know, as Joey was being able to say, you know, situational awareness.
Yeah.
You know, if your opponent is giving you nothing, if they, you know, if there's no desire, you know, if they don't ask, you know, the question, hey, what can I do to improve? If they're not laughing about, hey, remember, you know, that was kind of nuts. Oh, that was crazy. If they're giving you the silent treatment, you know, and just blah, blah, blah. For me, you know, just being able to, hey, great game. You know, I hope you have a wonderful day. You know, the rest of the, you know, event or you know, that evening. And hey, if you want to grab a beer, you know, let's get it. I think that's a really good advice, Sam. I really do. You know, if they're not giving you anything, you can't make people do that, right?
Yeah.
You know, so again, and I think that's exactly what we talked about, you know, toward the beginning of the cast, of riding the wave with people. And sometimes people just want to get off that roller coaster, right? You know, they just want off, and I think it would be grossly inappropriate to say, well, no, I don't want you to get off because I want you to get better.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, that's like a failure in nerd self-awareness 101 right there, where you're just like, no, I think
So
we need to keep talking about this. Actually, we should actually just continue to rehash the details of this game. No, wait, stop. No, I'm not going to let you leave.
I mean,
I'm going to need you to stay right here with me.
yeah. No, you come right back here and let me tell you what you did wrong. And I'm a good player, so you should listen to me. And look, let's be honest. That's one of the things. I think we're kind of getting at the crux at one of the struggles of our community, and I'll name this because I'm a part of this community, is recognizing that social contract of when people want to continue to talk, when they don't want to talk, how to read emotions, is something that our community, not just as MCPers, but as wargamers, struggle with, right? Of trying to kind of be aware. And so, this is why we try to use imagery of like the roller coaster, riding the wave, all those things. We're emotional people, and recognizing that it's okay to allow someone to get off. This is my stop, I'm out, right? Yeah. And that's okay, and then maybe hopefully they come back, and can have a conversation. I've had those, and I think those help develop relationships that are really impactful. I've gone to events, across the states now, and have got my butt whooped some butt, and have had feelings that were up and down, but have created some really wonderful relationships that have come from conflict or have been resolved with, all of those things, and that's really beautiful. And also give people the freedom to, if they're done, man. Don't hold people hostage. Yeah. Get back here. Let me tell you why Hulk is busted. CGR is busted.
Well, I mean, that's a two-way street, right? Because now, that's the other side of this conversation is when that other player throws when you get the download then from like everything that's wrong with the game, or everything that's wrong with you, or everything that's wrong with the meta, or this group, or that group, or those stupid podcasters, and like how they're just ruining the game constantly. The echo chamber, the this, the that. You're just like, wow, okay. So like we're in a different spot.
Podcasters can't get an open.
So, but
right?
when Hulk threw that building, and I didn't have the power for brace, that was a pretty cool moment, right? That one was all right. I think that is one thing that you can bring back into the mix, is try to point out those like kind of cinematic moments where something cool that they did. If I'm in one of those, if I am in a game that feels like it's going to be one of those games, I always try to get a couple of those kind of up my sleeve for the end game, post game conversation. Like, I think I'm going to need this one later,
just in case.
Just in case.
Yeah, like when a Malekith does 12 damage to a Hulk in a tournament.
Hey,
yeah, that's fine.
You know how that goes.
Happen.
No big deal.
Butcher of banners.
Right. Well, and then throws him on a 3-threat and dazes him. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, everything was fine here. It was great.
Or when CGR fails to do 1 damage to an incinerated black cat. Whoops.
Yeah.
This is fine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay. I'm not crying. You're crying.
It's the best. Mackin on the chat says something that needs to be recognized as well is the better player doesn't always win. Usually they will, but not always. And I do agree with that. I would say it's almost easier when the better player, if you are the better player in that sort of a setup, it's almost easier when you don't. And I think what you have to do is not make the Tom Brady face. Don't think that you're entitled to this victory. You are here to share an experience with another human being and have a great time, and make sure that they have one too. And it's a lot easier to have a good time when you're winning than it is when you're losing. And it's also a lot easier to have a good time when you feel like you're winning. So even when you're not actually, or you don't in the end, when you go the entire game and you feel like you're losing, you can get that, I'm losing, this is terrible, and you're like, I won. Oh, whoopsie. And it's the same thing on the other side of that if someone feels like they're winning the whole game, then they're going to have a good time during those moments, and then the rug gets pulled out from underneath them. But I think it's almost always easier when you're in a game night situation where you're dealing with a difference in approaches and mindsets. It's almost easier to lose that game. So don't bring Malekith, bring a 4-threat and a 3-threat, and just figure it out. You're like, but I'm supposed to have priority. Yeah, so go 6 wide and just try to see what happens. What happens when you go 6 wide?
I will say, for transparency's sake, I think you addressed an interesting challenge that at least for me, I've recognized that as I've gotten better in this game, and kind of named like when I'm at a tournament, I'm like I am clearly the better player here, and I'm losing, and I'm going to lose this game. I have to turn off that voice, that Tom Brady voice in the back of my head of like, you deserve this, right? You're the better player, right? So find a way to win, and oh, this person, and then you hear, oh, if dice don't, if this didn't go crazy, or if one of the things that I say when I get a little tilted is like, well, on average this should happen, right? On average this should happen, again, and this is, the learning thing for me is people celebrated me when I was getting better. They celebrated my victories. Shouldn't I do the same when others do it? One of the most, I'll tell you, one of the things that means the most to me, and Sam, you're a big part of it, is when people message you when you're going to an event that we're not at the same event.
Yeah. Oh,
and my buddy Sam messages me out of the blue and says, "Hey, I saw that you did this. You went 4-1 or whatever. I'm so proud of you. Good job. Things like that. Why can't we celebrate each other rather than just being, oh, I'm the better player. I should celebrate that some of the people will beat me, and yeah, I think I'm a good player. So it's awesome when people beat me. Yeah, wow, that means players in our community are getting better.
Yeah, iron sharpens iron, right? Like, here we go. Like, let's get this on.
It's wait, iron sharpens iron.
Oh,
I didn't even know.
Bam!
It was probably in my subconscious, but holy smokes!
This is rigged.
There you go. Yeah, it's rigged. But no, I think that's something that I would
iron
like
too.
to see. Are there? Oh, look, the trifecta. We did it, guys. We did it. Stream's over. We did it, guys. We did it. Yeah. No, I think that would be something that, as Sam was saying, be a banner carrier, be a supporter, celebrate people, especially even if you're the better player and you lost, celebrate somebody.
Yeah, the celebration of all of our success, I think, is important. And one of the things that has come up for me is I think that if you have that sense of entitlement, or if you're feeling that grow, like that's like prime time to take yourself a little break, number one. And number two, there's another answer, which is just play more, play even more, right? Because like I think some of what we deal with is just, it doesn't matter how many games of this we play. In the end, you play this game for 10 years, you're going to have a small sample size if the only things you have to reference are your own games. And you're not going to win them all. And if you do, like, holy smokes, right? You're either a robot or you have a preternatural level of luck that is just not statistically correct for one person to have that.
Big college word, man. Yeah, wow.
And so I think, just play more, play even more games, because now it doesn't matter that you lost that one, or even that you lost like these last 3. It matters that you're going to play 7 more. And I think that kind of commitment is also a big one to handle. All right. Anybody have anything else on this kind of subtopic?
I think that's wrapped it up.
Yeah, when in doubt, just slap somebody. Yeah, just give them the old...
That's solid. That's sound advice right there. Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about rules and how rules come into good sportsmanship. Knowing the rules and keeping a good, clean game state, right? So both players are responsible for maintaining a good, clean game state. It's not my job. It is my job, but it's not only my job. It's not your job, but it is your job, but it's not only your job, right? It's our job to keep the game state as clean as possible. And that means saying things that aren't in your favor, if that's the case. And that's a hard one. That's a hard one where you're like, oh man, this is not optional. I have to say something about this. I don't want to. My opponent has obviously missed this trigger. But like this, and this goes into like being a banner carrier and being a good sportsman. I never want anyone to come back to one of the games that they played against me and go, that motherfucker did this to me. I cannot believe that he would let that he would do that. Like, that's just wrong. That's not, now I feel really, really terrible. I don't want that space in someone's head. I want them to walk away from the game that we had and be like, man, that guy was a stand-up. He was kind of a jerk, but he was a stand-up guy about it. Like, that's way more what I'd like. So, I mean, like, Joey and I played at Nova, and we had one of these inaccurate game state things come up, and I'll take the blame for it. It was my character. I didn't put the power on my character, and so he came in and built an entire turn of strategy and actions based on bad information that I had sitting on the board for him to see. And our game was tight enough, intense enough that it wasn't going to be like, how much power do you have on so-and-so? Because that would have been one of the cases where it's like, if I ask him this question, he'll know what I'm planning. And, you know, maybe that's, you know, the best thing you could do is just go ahead and ask that question anyway. But in our case, it was like, he went through his whole turn, and then I was like, oh, no, I'm missing a power here. He should have had 3 power on him. He's like, well, if he had 3 power on him, then he can charge. It was a Malekith, because I was also a terrible person when I went to Nova, much like you were at NashCon. And so we just rewound the whole thing. It was easy enough to do because it was just a single move. We knew roughly where his guys were. We said, you know what? That's fine. Let's see what happens. Let's do it the other way. And I think that's about like the furthest I'm willing to go back so far as that kind of stuff. And the only reason it worked was because literally nothing had changed except we rolled dice at each other and it went a certain way. And I was like, well, it doesn't make sense for me to do this. I was like, I don't want you to walk away from this game going, I hate the fact that you didn't.
Our first game and he cheated.
You effed up some stuff on our game, and now I had to do this, and then like
That's why I
that's not.
invited you to be on the sportsman. I want to tell everyone that moment when I cheated you. Yeah, got him.
got him. And so I mean that's the kind of stuff where I think you've got to, as a good sportsman, you've got to understand where those lines are. And again, in our game, it was like, hey, how do we resolve this? What's the best way for us to do this? And I was like, well, can we roll it back? Can we roll it back? Let's roll it back. Who cares? We rolled some dice. What?
Yep.
Big deal.
Yeah.
I'll take these.
Yeah, those situations I kind of find myself casual or honestly even in a tournament. There's points where I find myself where measuring is usually the most common one. Oh, I can't really tell if he's in or if he's just out, whatever. I'm like, dude, it's your call, man. I can clearly look at it and see, but if they ask, I'm just like, dude, it's on your court. If you make the call, if not, call a judge or whatever. And that's just how I do it. I'm not going to say yes or no because if it is, then, or if I make the decision, then they're like, damn, man, that's kind of messed up. I don't think it was. So I kind of put the responsibility on them. If, you know, play it as it lies, kind of roll from there.
I mean, I think you can't stop what 2 consenting adults are going to do, like by and large. So if everyone's happy about the decision, let's make the decision together. Yep. If there's any question about it, let's get a third party over here to tell us how to unfuck this, because that's just like nobody wants to make the decision that is in those kind of razor thin moments. Nobody wants to make a decision that's bad for their opponent or for themselves. Like, I don't want to put a bad taste in your mouth. I also don't want to be like, well, you did like completely blank out on that attack, Joey. So
right, a little different.
Well, and I think, and Joey, I think you said it too, being able to not be afraid to call judge. You know, and recognizing that I don't know why, even in the competitive atmosphere, that there's still this like negative, you know, stigma of calling judges over.
Right.
Like, oh, you guys are both idiots, so you got to call a judge. Like, no, that's. You know, sometimes,
I mean, there are some judges who will make you feel that way. To be fair,
that's
which is another point for community building, but that's another topic.
Well, yeah, I will say probably one of the best judges I've ever had. I'll give him a shout out. Is Brian Watson. He lives out in Massachusetts, and you know, come to Everwinter. You know, he does a lot of the Everwinter and Adepticon. I think he was there. He was actually one of the judges at LVO.
Nice.
Brian Watson. You know, wonderful guy, and he gives a wonderful spiel of like, look, don't be afraid to call judges. You know, there's no shame, and being able to agree together of we may not have an understanding, but we both agree that whatever the judge says, even if it doesn't go my way, we're cool. We'll cool, and that's how the game state is. And I think, I think that's important. I've had to call judge a couple times, and recognize, hey, this is maybe an improper game state, or we just can't find the best solution. So getting a third party to tell us how to unscrew this, right? That's important.
I have a story from X-Wing that is one of. It really shows the entire. It paints a very complete portrait of miniatures gamers in general, I think. So we were playing a meaningful game. There were stakes on the line, and I was playing a ship that created another ship when it died. Right, so it had something that was docked, and so when the big ship got taken away, the little ship would pop out.
The last one?
No, this one was it was a ghost. So it was the little shuttle would come out.
Oh yeah, nice.
And I was getting my butt handed to me, but I was staying in it. I was scrapping, right? So he wasn't like pulling ahead the way that he thought he should be, and I couldn't push any damage through. I couldn't do anything to him. It was a really difficult game. And when he finally got me to the point where he blew up my ghost, I was like, well, I got to take this thing off the table now. I just took it off the table. And he was like,
oops,
Judge. And I was like, oh God, what did I do? And he wouldn't tell me. And that made me a little weird.
That's kind of weird.
I was like, I'll wait. The judge comes over. And he proceeds to tell the judge, like, hey, my opponent picked up his ghost without dumping out the shuttle. And I was like, oh, yeah, you're right, I did. Like that's definitely something that I just did. And at first I was like, what a gentleman, right? Like he's here to like make sure that we do this right. Like he called the judge over, so we're just going to get this right. No, he actually called the judge over to try and make the case that I shouldn't be able to deploy the shuttle at all because
nice.
I removed the ship from the table.
Saw that. Point of order.
Fortunately, at that point, there was still a movement template on the table that was connected to my shuttle because I was a lazy, sloppy player and I didn't remove my movement template from the last move. And so the judge was like, well, like what's this template here? And I was like, oh, that's where the ghost was. He was like, oh, well, why don't you just line up the template from there and drop the shuttle out? And my opponent was upset about that. And so like this was like, it was just like, wow, like this just paints an incredible picture, right? Of like, let's maintain the game state together unless it's in my favor. And then let's maintain the game state together so that it's in my favor. Yeah. And I think that that's the kind of stuff that we definitely want to avoid. And MCP's got a built-in place where that happens with a lot of regularity because when I kill your model and they drop their objective, where does that go if you pull the model up off the table, right? So now we're in this case where it's like, whoa, we got to figure out where that was. Was it within range? If everybody agree, again, you can't stop two consenting adults. So if everybody's like, oh yeah, he's definitely within range, like, here you go, pick it up. It's like, well, I didn't want to pick it up actually. Well, where do we put it?
Yeah, that's where you're just like, I don't even know. We'll give the extract to some other table. Here you go, you get another extract. Yeah, I think, don't be that guy. Don't call judge without communicating to your opponent. I would call sus, right? Let's call judge on.
That's super weird, yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So weird.
Right? That would be an example of bad sportsmanship. Is if you call the judge without communicating with your opponent why the judge is called, maybe you're doing something nefarious, right? I mean, and like we said at the beginning of the cast, right? Like just work together. Yeah. We have a common goal, which is to play this game and play it well. Especially, at the tournament level, I want your very best. I don't want to beat somebody who's, not giving me their best, right? It doesn't feel that great, So if Sam makes a mistake, well, all right, let's rewind. How do we fix this so that we can get the very best out of it, right? I don't know if I think I've ever like, sorry, sucks to be you, right?
No take backsies, too bad.
No take backsies. This isn't chess. Like you let your hand go. Sorry,
yep.
Yeah, those are not great moments.
All right. Dizzard in the chat says, "Hi,
Dad's
Dad."
here?
Speaking of, hi, Dad.
Okay, let's get on topic. Let's get on
All right,
topic.
yeah, Dad's here. Run.
Yeah,
Jeez,
we
everybody.
better wrap this up. We're almost at 90 minutes too. So he says, "Have we touched on slow play?" And we have not. So slow play is definitely in this. I guess it's in the conversation, right? Sportsmanship. So there's two things I think slow play comes in on sportsmanship. Maybe even three. One of them is, well, first of all, don't do it. If you're going to consider yourself sporting at all, don't purposefully slow play to stall the clock and things like that. But how do you deal with it? How do you address slow play? Because that's something that is never a comfortable conversation, and even calling a judge over doesn't necessarily solve anything.
Play chess clocks and move on. play chess clocks, move on.
Here you go.
Well, we can say that, but the AMG official formats are not chess clock formats.
Yeah, I know. They're wrong.
We love them, but they're wrong on this one. I agree.
They're wrong. I don't. So it's
Coming
so
in the
hard.
new core box.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's so hard to, at least for me, it's so hard to prove malicious slow play, because this game does have a lot of analysis paralysis, right? And what if this is just a skill variance? What if my opponent just is actually overwhelmed with what's going on? We had this. There was a big conversation at NashCon about slow play. Now if you've got one,
why were you
model
slow playing
left,
people, Ben?
Look. Not only was I malekithing them to death, but then I was doing it very slowly just to twist the knife. No, I mean, if you got one model left, and you're just like, I don't know what to do, and they've got 7.
It doesn't matter what you do.
It doesn't matter what you do. As you steel chair them in the head. No, it's. I think there are some cases where slow play is provable, but it's such a great line. I really appreciate what we're going to be doing at Everwinter is if one person asks to play with chess clock, you're going to play a chess clock. I think that's. I think destigmatizing that, at least in the competitive sphere.
Yeah.
And this is where this conversation matters. If it's casual play, just be like, hey man, I got somewhere to be, right?
Yeah.
And if you're not going to finish the game, you're not going to finish the game. But if we're talking about an event, especially where people are paying, travel, hotel, all of that stuff, I really don't see why chess clock is destigmatize that. It's not the end of the world. Again, when we were at NashCon, and some other events or LVO, Sam, I don't know if you had this experience. I think my first round opponent had never played on chess clock before.
Yeah.
So here we are at this huge event, top tier stuff. My opponent never played on chess clock. So let's work together. Let me help you. I'm not gonna, you ran out of time. You death clock yourself. Gotcha. No, let's work together, right? You got to hit it. Boom. I got you, right? Teamwork.
Yeah. That's maintaining the game state, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's an easy one where it's like, if I just, I guess I didn't see that their chess clock's running. Oh, guess I didn't see it again.
Oh yeah.
Huh, weird.
I feel like you can kind of gauge it from the beginning, like the first 2 rounds probably. You can kind of see the tempo, and then be a little more cognizant. If anything, be like, hey man, just casually toss it out there. Hey, we got 30 minutes left. Or whatever, just throw a couple time checks out. Me personally, I've only played like maybe 4 or 5 games with chess clocks. I like them, but I just have only ever played a couple. But even at tournaments, I start a timer when the judge says time, like go.
Yeah.
I always start a timer on my phone and let my phone sit on the side. And it's that way. It's not like, hey dude, like hurry up. Or a Dizzard said something about it. It's like you're playing a normal game, and then the judge is like, oh, you got 10 minutes. And you're like, oh shoot,
damn.
Well, like, where'd the game go?
More sloth-like in interactions.
Exactly.
That's terrible.
But it's like, it's one of those things. But on the other side of it, what I've tried to do, and it probably wasn't deliberate. It was just the game took a long time. I had somebody play very slow, and I try to maximize as much time as I can during my turns. And I mean that's kind of like the only way. I didn't really want to call a judge. We didn't have chess clocks at the thing, so I was like, whatever.
Yeah.
So I just tried to get as much out of my turns as I could. That's like the easiest way I could go about it.
I think that if you're not, so if you're running an event, and the elegant solutions here, in my opinion, are number one, have enough. If run it on chess clocks,
Just do that. Just fix the pull-up
right?
there.
Like at least, like everything else aside, that is going to take the time of the game, and it's going to split it up equally between the players, so both players have equal access to the game time. So there's a lot of positivity there. There are edge cases where it starts to break. There are situations where you're just going to want to stop rolling dice because you're like, I have to. If I do this area attack, I'm going to have to roll 8 attacks all on my clock, and like that can eat up a tremendous amount of time. So now you've got your analysis paralysis time, and you've got this ridiculous attack phase that you've got to get through, and you only had 4 minutes. And so now, like, how quickly can you actually do this? Your opponent's just rolling dice. You're rolling dice. Then we pick them up. We do it again. And, you know, how fast are you at counting? How fast are they at counting? Clocks have problems, but it does give more or less an equal split of time across both players. So I'm all for clocks. If you can't have clocks, or you're not having clocks, if you're running that event, you need to make sure that you have enough judges to actively judge that event. Walk around the tables so that you can see, hey, everybody else is on turn 3. These guys are on turn 1. What's happening here? I want to see what's happening at that game.
Yep.
And that's not necessarily where the marshal, you know, the head judge of the event needs to be, but like get somebody on that game. If it's you, it's you. If it's somebody else, it's somebody else. And if it looks like something's going weird there, you got to tell those players, like, hey, something's funky with your game. You guys got to pick up the pace a little bit here. Like, I get, you know, consenting adults, but like, why are you 2 turns behind the rest of the room?
Well, and I think what's weird is in the official AMG stuff, you're at those events, you're not supposed to tell them how much time is left, right? You know, and I think for me, I think that's ridiculous with a non-clocked event. You know,
Yeah, that's
so
silly.
I think your option for me as a player, I think it's either or, man. You either play with chess clocks and just go through all of the stigma that is chess clocks, which I don't think are actually, I think it's better for the community, or you call, you know, 20 30-minute intervals, right? You've got this much time, so that way you can actually kind of gauge if someone is slow playing you or not, and then you can, you know, communicate with the judge and all of those things. But if we're doing this mystery clock thing, for me, I think that's the worst feel bad moment. Is you're playing, someone's having a, you know, an area attack that's hitting 5 opponents, you know, and doesn't daze anybody. So I mean, but it's killing time, right?
Yep.
You know, and oh well, and now it's over,
Now we're done.
right? So it's you know, on round 2 the game's over because I don't know where the time went. You know, I mean, yeah, it's one of those things. I also, you know, in those moments, be a good sport and kind of do the mental chess. You know, go. This is how this game is going to end, right? You know.
So the year before at Nova, I think it was your buddy Joey. Dude
Yeah,
brought
it
a
was,
chess
mate.
clock to the games and basically told his opponents that they had to play on it. And it was kind of a nuance of that rules packet that like a chess clock could be demanded, and it only took one person to basically demand a chess clock. And now we're playing on a chess clock when nobody else in the room is. And he had a few people push back on him. I was one of them because I wasn't there to play on chess clocks. I had just been practicing my entire like sweaty summer of LVO stuff. Like I was playing on chess clocks like exclusively, and like I was like I don't want to play on a chess clock, man. Like I'm just here. Like I'm not trying to take up, you know, your portion of the game, but like I don't want to play on a clock today. Like this was like supposed to be my like relaxing event, you know. And I think that's another element that's like those moments don't feel good for anybody either. But so to go back into fantastic how off topic we've gotten here at the end, where we're not really talking about
Dad's
sportsmanship
fault.
at all. Yeah, it's all
Dad's
Dad's fault. It's like sportsmanship. Let's talk about time
slow
management.
play. Come on, Dad, do better.
But I mean, this is a spot where calling a judge is uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to call the judge to be like, hey, this guy is trying to, you know, destroy me. He's literally trying to cheat me on time. it's hard to be like, hey, you have to play on a clock because I demand that you play on a clock. Nobody else has to play on a clock, but we do. And it also, like, I mean, just playing on clocks and, you know, the stigma of playing on a clock is that, like, things are better on clocks than are on off clocks, right? There are some things that are just going to succeed better on a shared time round versus chess clock rounds. That's in every game. That's not exclusive to MCP, right? If you're like running wider, you're going to use more of the time on shared time, just kind of period. So there's going to be things that you might not want to do on a chess clock that you would feel like you could get away with otherwise. And now, whatever, you know, headspace that is, that there's also the reality of making mistakes in these games, right? You've got dice mistakes. You got dice flubs. You've got times when you like sold something out and the dice didn't back you. You've got other times where you just like straight up made an unforced error, did something wrong, made an inaccuracy, if you will. And there was a guy that I used to play chess with all the time. And if we played on a clock, I would beat him like 9 times out of 10. We took the clocks off. Our games would take 4.5 hours. I would like just completely tap out after about hour 2 and he would win. like mentally, I was just like, right? Like at this point, like I've had too many beers to stay up, you know, with the to stay with you in this moment. Like I'm more interested in like whatever's going on behind you than I am in like what's going on the table itself now. And so like it's also headspace and play patterns, right? So like if you're measuring everything out, if you're taking your sweet time trying to be super accurate about every single movement on the table, you're going to take more time than a guy who's literally just be like, I don't know, I just want to be close. There we go, I'm done. Okay, I'm going to throw you over there. Okay, boop, boop, boop. Like that's a completely different amount of time spent versus like, I don't know, are you going to clip this car? I've got to make it so that you don't hit this base and you don't clip this car and then you go all the way to the end of the tool and don't hit anything. And I've got to measure 4 different things instead of just like put down a way tool and a movement and get you where you need to be.
Well, and I think that's where the rule of intent, you know, that's what I play by. This is my intention. Again, it's like basic communication, like what we've talked about is a constant theme of good sportsmanship. If I communicate to my opponent, this is what I'm attempting to do, let's kind of take a second to take a look at, do you think this is possible?
Yeah,
help me out. You know,
that is the first question, right? It's like, do you? Because now we're consenting adults, right? If I think I can do this and you think I can do this, let's just do it. And now we're done.
Boom.
If you're like, I don't know, man, this bumper right here sticks out like 1/8 of an inch past the point that I think you're seeing it at, or like this is a tabletop game. We're looking down at it. We're all different heights for the most part. You know, like we're like different heights, different body types, and like we're gonna look down at the table. You're on one side, I'm on the other. We're gonna see things differently. Like I can't count the number of times I'd be like, "Oh, that's totally in." Oh, wow, that's not even close.
Not even close.
Hey, dude, my gut shadow gets in the way. Right? Overhangs and just messes everything up. You know what I mean?
So sorry, Dizzard, I don't think we can solve your problem. If like you've got, in my opinion, the best thing that you can do in those situations is tell your opponent. I'm always on board for being the quote unquote stand up guy and just being like, hey, we got to pick this up.
Yep.
Like when
Time
you're
check.
like,
Yeah.
yo. Actually, as a quick aside, if we're playing in an event where they're saying that they're not going to call out warnings for time, that the players should not know how much time is left in a round, is it sporting to set a timer on your watch or your phone for the game? Is it sporting to pay attention to, it is vaguely 2:30 p.m. This round is going to end in approximately 90 minutes. So sometime around 4 p.m., I should be ready for this game to be over.
I just consider it a method of pre-measure, you know? We're allowed to do that.
Right. Yeah, we're allowed to pre-measure time. Yeah.
Is it illegal?
But I mean, those are responsibilities, though.
Right? Okay.
Initial, like in the beginning, is reaching out, like figuring out the round time situation.
Yeah.
Figuring out when they call time, what does that mean? Whether it's that straight up dice down or you get to finish a round. Like all of those would help alleviate some of the what do you call it? I guess offensive.
Yeah. Player packets. Player packets are big.
Time call.
So far as like running a competitive
Absolutely.
event, have a player packet for your competitive event. so far as like time and time management, the AMG system is very difficult in my opinion as both a TO and a player, because you have to deal with kind of the worst of both worlds. You have to deal with we're playing on shared time. Everything that we do happens on shared time. If you go in the tank, I'm in the tank with you. If you get analysis paralysis, I've got analysis paralysis. If you're measuring every little minute detail, I'm measuring every minute detail, even if I'm not doing it for my stuff. The shared time is rough. Yeah. And the other thing that it does is you finish the round, which does not help for time management from the TO's perspective, because the TO is trying to keep this event from running over, and depending on how many rounds you're running, how many days you have to run this event, you can be in situations where like the store opened early for you and they're going to stay open late for you, and you're going to go over even further. And so now you've got somebody who told it, the owner, the manager told them they were going to be done at 11. Well, the owner or the manager didn't stick around until 11, and now it's 11:45, and we're still playing the last round of the event. Like, we can't fix this. We haven't done prizing yet. I'm going to give people store credit, and they're going to have to turn around and leave because the register is already closed. It's been closed for an hour.
And you got out of town people coming in and everything.
Yeah.
So those are rough spots so far as running an event on the official rules. So that's one where I think that the shortest answer that we can all take, like as in a competitive environment, is just play on chess clocks and move on.
Or just don't do what AMG suggests. Because I agree. I think the AMG timing rules are awful at competitive events. It's either chess clocks or announce how much time you have left. I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah, dice down feels terrible.
Woo!
Dice down feels terrible.
Yeah, that's rough.
Oh yeah, dice down.
You're just like, all right, and dice down, score the round. Like,
or you don't even score the round. It's just dice down.
Oh, but my moves, and we were tied.
Oh, the stories I can tell.
So that's another one. So this is something that's come up in other having to do with other war games that's really caught my attention. All right, so this is, we might as well be in listener questions now. I think we're done with sportsmanship.
Freaking dad.
Sportsmanship, don't be a jerk. There you go.
Yeah, don't be a jerk.
The wrap up on sportsmanship, right, is like, don't be a jerk. Meet people on their level. Don't get your self-worth and validation from winning the game. Get it from playing the game and connecting with another person. That's...
There you go.
All right.
Do that.
Yeah, I mean, do that. It should work. That should work.
Keyword.
Should.
Start a podcast, complain about stuff. It's fine.
Don't complain about it. Promote the positivity. It gets hard sometimes, but it is what it is. All right, so listener questions. This one's from me. How would you guys feel about going to an event and if the event didn't have enough rounds to have a decisive like X and O victor, right? Play to the single undefeated. Do you think that everyone should just get placed based off of their record? Do you think that SOS or MOV or any other metric is functional for actually determining who did what on the day? Because nobody has any control over SOS. SOS is completely random, right? And if you're Ben and you make people hate the game that you're playing together, then they drop from the event, and you can go 4-1, and you get ninth. You get ninth on the
undefeated runners up.
Okay, so that's the downside to SOS, right? Like I've also had some weird SOS math hit me before, where like I played a guy who got a bye, so my extended SOS was crap because apparently like beating someone who got a bye wasn't as good as like someone who actually just got a bye. And I was like, wait a second, like I actually like beat 2 actual human beings on my way to round 3 that I lost. But now, wait, why does this? My brain's melting because SOS stinks.
Yeah, I hate SOS. I got 5th place at Nova because of SOS. Because I beat Amon. Yeah. And I had, because I got paired down on my final round. After our game,
so that doesn't help your SOS either.
And on top of that, my second. My second opponent quit.
My
So-
second opponent quit that day too. Like, so when it comes to SOS versus MOV, I actually prefer SOS because it at least gives credit to the person who had a tougher day, at least in theory. You played more people who did well.
I will say, because I've wrestled with this too. I think a lot of top tier competitive people have wrestled with this question. I think SOS is better for the community and community building because you are almost incentivized to encourage your opponent, right? Celebrate them, lift them up, make them better. You know, all of these wonderful things that are good for building communities. And I think AMG recognized that, and I commend that. I think MOV is a more true indicator of who was better that day in terms of if you don't have a single undefeated, right?
I think
But I think it's worse for the community because then you're just gonna you're just gonna be like
try to beat people as badly as possible. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a double-edged sword. Yeah.
Yep.
And I feel like MOV tends to show the person who, like, the best player with the easiest schedule, I think is the simplest way to put it. Like that's what that shows on the day. It was like, well, this guy, like the stars aligned for this guy, which, you know, goes right into my if it's your day, it's your day, like theory on tournament wins. And I think SOS is the same thing. I mean, if it's your day, it's your day, right? So like, however you slice this, like if it's your day, it's your day. But I've seen
Also,
again,
don't make people quit. It's bad.
or just win all your games. That's
Can't recommend it.
if you're going to make people quit, you have to win all of your games.
Yeah. Screw me for losing one game. Friggin' jerk. I know. But no, yeah, I think SOS is better for community building overall. But
So
yeah,
what
it
about
gets
just
fun.
taking all of it out? And if we can't get a clear victor for the day, what if it's, you know, okay, X and O's, you're first place. Congratulations to our X and O's. All right, our X and ones, congratulations, you're in second place. Our X and ones.
What is this share? What is this sharing? What is this?
I mean, like, I don't know, comrade. You tell me. Like,
I know. Yeah. What is this? As
I
a
don't. Does that
Slav,
feel
I'm-
cheap?
I'm-
Do you feel cheap? Does that cheapen the experience? Do you think, or does that is that more of a
So it
community
depends on the
building?
level, I feel like. Yeah, it depends on the level. Because if it's a smaller event, locals and stuff, I feel like that could be community building. But if you go to like a big con tournament and it's like, oh man, we got two guys with the same. Well, I guess they're both number one. Like, that's not gonna. A couple of guys aren't gonna be too pumped about that.
Yeah,
I mean,
right, yeah. I don't know if I'd be down with that.
If you're at the con level, I feel like you need to have enough rounds of Swiss to close out your event.
For sure.
So
Yeah.
whether that's, because I mean, most of the time, adding a cut actually adds a round to the events. Like you can usually get like a single undefeated faster just running pure Swiss than you can through a cut. But understanding which one of those you're going to do, understanding, you know, make sure you have enough time to get to the end of the event. And if it takes 2 days, it takes 2 days, and that's just what we got to do. I don't know. That's a fun one. Maybe we'll talk about that some other time.
This is my first
But,
place prize. No one else.
Yeah, I've talked about that. I've had those talks many
no,
times.
It's
about
also my
secondary and
my
tertiary.
first prize, comrade.
I'll see you in the parking lot.
Yeah, we'll have a fist fight in the parking lot and see who gets both.
Exactly. Now I'm double. Hey, have you ever got double first place in an event?
Well, one of us is about to.
King of slaps, baby.
All right, Joe, you got anything else for the people?
I don't think so. I think that pretty much covered it.
All right, Ben, let's roll out the red carpet for you. What do you got going on? Like, you got anything you want to promote, pump up, talk about?
Hey, come to. So if you're in kind of the northeast, we've got a really wonderful affiliation battle event in Syracuse, New York. I think affiliation events are absolutely wonderful. This will be
Sounds
after
awesome.
the new core set is released, so come test out your new core set stuff. So come to that. If you want to experience the Northeast in its finest, in December at Everwinter
Yes.
in Massachusetts, come. It's gonna blizzard, I guarantee it, and it's gonna be freaking awesome.
So come early and plan on
and
staying
walk-
late. That's what I just heard.
It's It's gonna be awesome. We're gonna walk. We're gonna go to get some hibachi in the blizzard because nobody stops, and we just keep on doing it. No, come to Everwinter if you're in the Northeast. It's a really wonderful event. Last year, I think we had like 50 people, come. So it's a really wonderful time. Yeah, 50 people in freaking Boston, in December.
I think we had 5 at our last event, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so come to that. It's a really wonderful event. Wonderful prize support. It's a 3-day event, so come.
Ooh,
to
golly!
that.
What do you do for 3 days?
The first one, actually, we're really excited. This was the thought child of Brian Watson, so all praise to him. Is a charity event, so it's going to be Toys for Tots,
Sweet.
where the first day you can like buy basically cheat codes in your games, and it's freaking awesome, and all that money goes to Toys for Tots, and it's just really, really awesome. So come support us. That's going to be the Friday event. The Saturday event is the LVO. It's an LVO qualifier big day event, and with cuts. So if you don't make cuts on Sunday, we're actually doing a create a character contest where there are 3 characters. I can't remember what they are off the top of the head. One of them I know is the Black Knight, though. So just basically, folks who are coming to Everwinter can submit these characters that they've created, and judges will be able to pick what they think is the best, and then those characters are legal for play on the Sunday event for those who haven't. Yeah, so it's really freaking awesome. Then the winners, the persons who have submitted that character card, will win that model. So if you created Black Bolt, I think it's, or not Black Bolt, it's the Black Knight, Jessica Jones, and somebody else. I can't remember.
Nice. Are they going to be? Is affiliations part of the design process for the
Yeah,
characters?
if you want to make Jessica Jones a leader, do it, man. Do
Nice,
it.
nice.
And if the judges pick that character, you will win that character. We have some prize support for that. So it'll be really
That's
awesome.
super fun.
Yeah, it's a really, really neat thing. Like I said, Brian Watson's a wonderful event host. So, and then of course, if you make cuts.
So Toys for Tots. What do I get if I bring like a bag of charcoal, like a full size like Kingsford bag?
That'll be unopened.
Yeah, I'm open. Look, if you do that, Sam, we'll make something happen for you, man. We'll make something happen for you. But yeah, come venture, play in the snow with us. It's gonna be really fun. It's gonna be a really wonderful event.
That's awesome. I love charity events as a community. I think that those are that's like the one thing that I didn't get to do last year when we were running our tournaments was try to get something tied into charity. Like that's fantastic.
What if we like build a cares about others? What a crazy thought, right?
Yeah.
What a
Wow.
crazy thought. So yeah, come check us out for that, and then of course a little shout out to eventually. My wife and I will get another video out for Married Couple Protocol. We'll eventually do that again. So.
Oh, nice! Heck yeah!
Like subscribe. We got some battle reports. She does painting tutorials on there, so do that. Tell us that we're awesome and that my beard is glorious. So all of those are appreciated. Though I think Joey's got me beat on this beard, which is making me kind of self-conscious.
The old face blanket. It's almost wintertime, so.
You got like a sleeping bag there, man. You can crawl into that.
Just get all up.
Built-in scarf. Yeah, we're good.
You're preparing for Everwinter, Joey. Look, it's happening.
Hey, that's it, man.
We're
Sold.
Make it happen.
We did it. But yeah, that's me.
All right, where can people find you? So where?
Yes,
they
you can
want
find
to.
me. I'm Rightmad pretty much everywhere on Discord. I'm also on the Gamers Guild Shatterpoint podcast, so come check it out if you want to check out Shatterpoint. Married Couple Protocol on YouTube. You can check us out on that. If you just yell Marco, I will always say Polo. So that is just another way to reach me. But yeah,
If you're ever stuck in a blizzard.
if you're ever stuck in a blizzard and yell Marco, I'll be there saying Polo. I won't help you get out of the blizzard, but I will say Polo. But yeah, Rightmad on the Discords, all of that. Reach out. Yeah, I'd love to talk to you.
All right. Well, it's not every night we get to chat with the King of Slaps, so thanks for coming out, Ben.
Thanks for having me.
This is we've been the Rogue Agents, and you've been the listeners. So thanks for hanging out with us, and join us again next week, and we'll focus a little more on some actual MCP stock again. But Good night.
Later, legends.
Bye. Love you, mean it.
Hold on, I'm going to play the thing.